sun is out. The weather was miserable earlier today, and I was miserable as well. I thought I wouldn't get to this today, but I'm feeling better and the sun is out, so I'll take up all the beets today and we'll see what we got. I'm going to swing around here. You see, this is the shady plot here, and it's completely in shade. In fact, the shadow this time of year comes right out to the sunny patch. So March the 21st, this will be the same. Actually, no, February. In June, this front row is in sun, and then by August, when the sun is at noon, this is pretty much all shade again. So not the best place to put the garden, but I like it for aesthetics reasons. I like that garden there, and that is why I want to find out what crops and other beneficial plants will grow in shade, so that I can keep this nice looking garden and make it beneficial. Anyway, back to the beets. So we're going to go through this, but first let's go over here. This is our beets that we were growing for seed, and I checked out earlier, and you see all these that are turned nice and brown and dry. There's quite a few there. I brought them in and inspected them, so this is the clip that I recorded inside. Here is one of the dried up seed pods. That's my index finger there. If I bring the flowers in, see, that's flowers. So they're so tiny that you can't even see them as flowers when they're out in bloom. A couple of them, the fruit is starting inside, but I see if you can see it on this one. Right there, the fruit is starting inside on that one there. So I have this bunch here. You see all these down here. These are dry. But these green ones, they're no good. Then I have a full green one here. So I did get some seed. I have more seed from what I bought inside. But I can collect these dry ones and see how well they do next year. Yes, Mr. Rooster. I have the occasional fairly large beet here. Most of them will be smaller though. There's another nice one. These two beds is going to be plenty for me. And I was thinking earlier that next year I would just grow one bed of beets and work on figuring out the beet, because the idea was that if I grew 2 sets of beets, I might have enough for my aunt and uncle as well. If they don't grow, then I don't have them for them, do I? So I'm going to go back to one bed of beets and get them growing well, and then I'll expand. Now take them all up. When you take up your beets, you got to think about what you want them for and how you're going to store them. If you're going to boil them and make pickled beets out of them, then when you cut off the top, you leave some. So you leave some of the top like this, so that all the tannins won't bleed out of your beet when you're boiling it. Also, if you're storing it to use for the growth for seed next year, then you had to leave some of the top. Because if I cut it right down here, then it cuts off all the what would be the growing tips and prevent it from sprouting next year. If, however, you're going to store them long term like this, then you'd want to cut it down low so that they won't sprout prematurely on you. What I'm going to do with the tops is I'm going to leave them on the bed as a mulch, and I'll just take up the beets, put them in the bucket, and I'll leave the tops right there laying on the bed. This is my harvest. A poor harvest as I expected, but plenty for me. That's bed number 1, and then there's bed number 2. I don't need beets, but I like beets, and they are something I will eat, so I grow them. Now, I want beets to grow seed next year, and when you're selecting beets, one of the reasons you want the bigger ones is because there's more places where they can sprout out around the top. I'll show you now. You see, get this weed out of the way. This one here, the original top was right here, but it sprouted out in all these different places. So the bigger the beet you have, the more stalks you'll have coming up to get your seed. So back here, the biggest beets were all in the first bed, and I'm going to select 4. So I'm going to take this one, this one, let's see, I guess that one, and that one. Yeah, so I'm going to take these 4, put them over right there. And to store them, last year I stored them in the cellar, just in a bag in the cellar. But this year I'm going to do it similar to the way I store the carrots. So it's a little wet actually. I'll get some from up there. So that's some moist sand. You see, I can't put them back in the ground right away because I'm in zone 5. If my memory serves me correctly, in zone 6 you could just leave them in the ground or just move them to where you want them to grow to seed and leave them in the ground all winter. But for me, I have to take them in and store them in a place that's be a little warmer than outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store them in the fridge where I store my seeds. Just like that. And I'll put them in the fridge, and then come spring I'll take them out and plant them in some growing medium. Hopefully this shows up well. I brought the seeds inside. I clipped off all the dry portion. Let me turn that up, make sure. Okay. So this is the dry portion of the beet seeds. And I basically just have to pull these beets off now. The vine is breaking there. And when it's really dry, it's much easier. If there's any green left in it, it makes it much more difficult to get the seeds off. This, you see, is an extremely dry portion. That was easy. And I have these. Now this is the batch that I cut off, and I'm going to extract all the seed from here, and then I'll show you how much I got from the plant so far. I only clipped off the dry, as I said, and I've got the plants left in the ground. I don't know if any more will get a chance to fully mature before the frost kills the plant or not. That's a nice little pile of beet seed. Let's see what happens now if I put them in this columnar with fair size holes. If I can sift out the smaller stuff, which would be the chaff, because the beet seed themselves should be big enough to stay in the columnar. So that some of it looks like seeds, but they're tiny, so they're probably not fully developed. There's 40 to 60 beet seeds in 1 gram. So let's see how many grams of beet seed we have. $28 grams. 28 times 50. So you have 1,400 beet seed, approximately. And like I say, that's only off of about half of 1 plant. So, there we are. That's the beets. Like I said, it was a poor harvest. I have some learning to do on why my beets are so slow growing here. And I'll go back to 1 bed and get it growing good, and then I'll expand from there. The next harvest video will be carrots. I've got quite a few volunteer carrots here, and that bed over there, that should give me a decent amount. The far one, as I've mentioned in the past, we'll see. So that's in a couple of days' time, so I'll see you in the next video.